She sat quietly on the edge of the cracked pavement, her fingers absent-mindedly tracing the dented frame of her rusted wheelchair. The same spot she had returned to every day for months, maybe years' time, had blurred into a dull repetition of sunrises and sunsets that barely made a difference anymore. Her name was Alina, and she hadn't always been like this. Once upon a time, she had danced, run, laughed, without the ache of loss, lodged permanently in her chest. Life hadn't always been cruel, but when it decided to take, it took everything: her ability to walk, her sense of purpose, her voice that used to be so loud and full of conviction. An accident, a single moment on a rainy road, a flash of headlights, and then darkness. When she woke up, the world hadn't paused for her pain. The doctors told her she was lucky to be alive. Lucky, they said, as if waking up to a life she couldn't recognize anymore was some kind of gift. After months in the hospital, she was sent home with a standard-issue wheelchair that groaned and creaked like an old skeleton every time it moved. At first, she told herself it was temporary, that she'd find a better one, maybe get it repaired, maybe someone would help. She wrote letters to disability aid centers, filed forms, called foundations. She begged for help in the politest ways she could manage. Most of the time, there was silence. Sometimes there were rejection letters, automated apologies, messages that said due to limited funding, or we regret to inform you. And slowly, she stopped trying. The wheelchair began to fall apart. A loose wheel here, a bent frame there. The armrests wobbled, and the footrest eventually broke off completely. Still, she used it. She had no choice. Her world had become so small: just the cracked sidewalk outside her apartment, the view of the same half-dead tree, the same bench across the street. Occasionally someone would pass by, glance at her, maybe offer a weak smile before quickly turning away, as if her presence reminded them of something uncomfortable. People don't like being reminded that tragedy can touch anyone. And so she became invisible, a ghost of the woman she used to be. But even ghosts have memories. Alina remembered the sound of her shoes tapping against concrete when she used to walk with confidence. She remembered late-night strolls under city lights. Grocery store aisles she didn't dread. Friends who used to visit before their lives got busy. Now even getting over a speed bump felt like climbing Everest. Her hands were calloused from pushing the broken wheels, her shoulders ached constantly, and her spirit, her once fairy, never-said-I spirit, had dimmed to a fragile flicker. And then, one random afternoon, something changed. The air had that sticky humidity that signals an oncoming storm, and Alina was sitting under the broken shelter near her building, shielding herself from both the heat and her thoughts, when the sound of an old engine drew closer. It wasn't unusual to hear traffic. She heard it all the time, but this one stopped, right in front of her. A dusty old pickup truck coughed to a halt, and out stepped a man she didn't recognize. He looked ordinary: overalls, work boots, grease smudges on his cheeks, a tool belt hanging from his waist, but there was something different about the way he looked at her. Not pity, not discomfort, just awareness. Like he saw her, not just the chair. Without asking for permission, he squatted beside her wheelchair, ran a hand along the frame, tapped one of the wobbly wheels, and tilted his head. "This is barely holding together," he muttered, more to himself than to her. Alina wasn't sure what to say. People usually ignored the chair, or worse, tried to ignore her completely. "I've tried fixing it," she finally said, her voice hoarse from lack of use. "Don't think it's worth much anymore." The man looked up at her, squinting against the sun. "Everything's worth something. Sometimes you just need the right hands. Then, after a pause, you want me to fix it. Or rebuild it, rebuild it." The word echoed inside her. She hadn't heard that in a long time. Most people just offered temporary patches, sympathy, or nothing at all. But this stranger, this grease-stained mechanic with a voice like gravel, was offering something she hadn't dared to imagine in years. A beginning. She shrugged, unsure if she could afford his kindness. "Do whatever you can," she said. Softly, he didn't ask for money. Didn't ask for anything. Really. Just gave a small nod, turned back to his truck, and drove off. She thought maybe that was the end of it. Another fleeting interaction to be forgotten. But the next day, he returned. With tools. A small, portable welder. Spare parts she didn't recognize. He crouched beside her again and started unscrewing the bolts, humming to himself. He didn't talk, but only asked questions when necessary, like how high do you want the armrest? Or do rough roads hurt your back? Each time she answered, she felt something loosen inside her, some knot of bitterness or loneliness that had tightened over the years. Piece by piece, he dismantled the broken shell of the old wheelchair. As metal parts clanked against the pavement, as rusted joints were replaced with new ones, she found herself watching him not with suspicion, but with wonder. No one had ever looked at her equipment and seen something worth saving. No one had ever paid this much attention to her comfort, her needs, and he never treated her like a burden. He treated the wheelchair like a machine. And machines, he said, always had a solution, even if it meant starting from scratch. Alina watched as he carefully took measurements, adjusted angles, reinforced weak spots. He even asked her to try different seat heights, different backrest lengths. He let her decide. He included her. The sun set, but he promised he wasn't done. He'd be back tomorrow, and the next day if he had to. She didn't ask why he was doing it. Maybe she was afraid of the answer. Maybe she just didn't want to jinx it. But every time he came back, something changed in her. A flicker of anticipation replaced the numb monotony. She woke up early. She brushed her hair. She waited by the sidewalk, not just for the chair but for the reminder that she still mattered, that her pain was seen, that she wasn't invisible anymore. On the third day, she offered him tea. He accepted. It was awkward at first. Her kitchen wasn't exactly accessible, and he had to squeeze into a corner to sit, but they talked about everything and nothing. She learned his name was Rafe, that he'd once repaired airplanes before opening a small garage downtown, that he hated hospitals, that he believed the world needed more fixers and fewer talkers. He didn't like cameras or awards or attention. He liked silence, wrenches problem solving. Machines are honest, he said. They either work or they don't. Unlike people. But somehow, with her, he didn't seem to mind being a little different. She smiled for the first time in months, a real smile, the kind that reaches your eyes. And she didn't know it then, but the next time he came on the fourth day, he would bring with him not just a rebuilt chair, but the beginning of something that would change everything. The fourth day arrived quietly, with the kind of morning haze that made everything feel suspended in time, as if the world was holding its breath for something to begin. And Alina, already awake, sat by her window long before the sun had fully risen, her heart strangely restless, her mind circling around the thought that maybe this was all too good to be true, that maybe Rafe wouldn't come back, that maybe the last 3 days were just a passing kindness from someone who had already done too much. But just as that doubt tried to settle in her chest, she heard the familiar rattle of his pickup truck, and this time, when he got out, he wasn't carrying loose parts or a bag of tools. Instead, he lifted from the back of the truck a newly built wheelchair that made her blink twice, because it didn't look like something repurposed or patched up. It looked new. No, not new, better than new, custom, designed with intention, care, and maybe even love. And as he rolled it toward her, she couldn't speak for a moment, her eyes trailing over the padded armrests, the curved ergonomic backrest, the reinforced wheels with shock absorbers for rough terrain, the adjustable footrests that finally matched her leg length, and even a small pouch installed at the side, stitched neatly like something from a high-end brand. And when he stopped in front of her and simply said, "It's ready," she didn't know whether to cry, laugh, or hug him. So instead, she just stared, her hand reaching out to touch the smooth surface of the wheel. Feeling the difference instantly, no rust, no shaking, no sharp edges threatening to cut her fingers, just solid, stable craftsmanship that told her one thing louder than any words: this was built for her. Not just for anyone, but for Alina. And in that moment, something broke open inside her. The years of frustration and helplessness spilling silently down her cheeks as she looked at him, and he, uncomfortable with emotion but too decent to pretend he didn't notice, scratched the back of his neck and said awkwardly, "You should try it." And with shaking hands and a racing heart, she did, lifting herself slowly out of the old wreck she'd been using and into this new creation. Adjusting herself, feeling how her spine aligned comfortably with the backrest, how her arms rested naturally on the arm pads, how her legs finally had a proper place to sit instead of dangling awkwardly. And then she pushed gently, cautiously, and the chair glided forward so smoothly she gasped. The motion was effortless, quiet, graceful, and she turned slightly, then more confidently, pushing again, faster, and before she knew it, she was moving down the sidewalk, turning, spinning, laughing. Actually laughing, for the first time in years, not a bitter or forced sound, but something free, something real. And people stopped, stared. Neighbors who had never spoken to her suddenly stepped out of their homes. Children clapped. A woman across the street teared up. Someone started filming, and all the while Rafe stood near his truck, arms crossed, trying to hide the smile threatening to break across his usually serious face, because he didn't do this for applause, didn't do it for recognition. He did it because he could. Because something inside him refused to ignore someone else's suffering when he knew he had the power to change it. And change it he had. Not just the wheelchair, but Alina's entire life. Because after that day, nothing was the same. Word spread quickly, first through neighbors, then through local community groups, then on social media thanks to the video someone posted that went viral within hours. And suddenly, Alina was being contacted by reporters. Her story was featured in a morning news segment. Articles were written about her miracle mechanic, and donations started pouring in from strangers who wanted to help, to sponsor more repairs, to send their own wheelchairs to be fixed. And while it overwhelmed her at first, what grounded her was Rafe, who remained calm, practical, unbothered by the limelight. And when she asked him what they should do with the money and attention, he said without hesitation, "Help others, like you." And so they did, tossing the funds to start a small workshop in the back of his garage, setting up donation drives for spare parts, partnering with hospitals and disability centers to identify people in need. And soon, the two of them were not just fixing broken wheelchairs, but also broken spirits, restoring dignity, mobility, and independence to people who had been dismissed by society. And with every chair they rebuilt, every smile they brought back to someone's face, Alina felt a purpose reigniting inside her, a reason to get up each morning, to work, to fight again, to be seen not as a burden, but as a builder, a helper, someone who knew pain but chose not to pass it on. And through it all, she and Rafe grew closer, not just as collaborators, but as kindred spirits who had both been wounded by life in different ways, and who now found healing not in words, but in action, in service, in the quiet satisfaction of giving someone their freedom back. And though they never labeled what was growing between them, there was an unspoken understanding, a warmth that lingered in their glances, in the way he handed her tools without asking, in the way she brewed his tea just the way he liked it. And on nights when they worked late into the evening, surrounded by half-repaired frames and the soft hum of old radio music, they found joy not in grand gestures but in presence, in the simplicity of being there for one another. And every time Alina wheeled herself through the workshop, giving instructions, checking parts, laughing with volunteers, she remembered that the version of herself that once sat silently on a sidewalk, forgotten, broken, and she marveled at how far she'd come, not because someone saved her, but because someone believed she was worth saving, and that belief gave her the strength to save herself and now, to be that someone for others, to pass on the kindness that rewrote her story. And so when people asked what changed her life, she never said a wheelchair, she never said a donation, she said, a mechanic who saw me, because that's where it all began, not with money, not with charity, but with one man, one question, and one act of care that turned her world right side up, and reminded her that no matter how broken you feel, with the right hands, the right heart, and the right intention, you can always be rebuilt, stronger than before.